Welcome to Reflections, a program where we discuss values and virtues for the transformation of the individual and the society in general. I am Father George Ehusani, and I have with me in the studio today my friend Dayo Omoogun. Dayo is a journalist and the publisher of Balance magazine, and also
Interface Newshub.com.
Interface, that's an online
newspaper. Okay. That's correct.
Yeah. Dayo and I are, have a number of commonalities, and one of them is that we belong to the same age generation.
Exactly, maybe. Yeah.
I'm older than you, right?
Yes, you are.
So you are my junior brother, younger brother. Yeah. So, but then, those who grew up in Nigeria in the 60s into the 70s have an experience. We think of that era with great nostalgia and lamentation, and a dose of lamentation.
Exactly.
Because we grew up at a time that Nigeria was at its peak, even though it was military rule. It was looking forward.
Father, I think that what has happened generally, on a general level, is the fact that there has been an erosion, a consistent erosion of values. And if you look at it thoroughly, that's the root cause of everything that we have lost. That's the root cause of the slide. We have lost our humanity. In those days, you could vouch for, you would find persons who would take the risk for another person. I mean, selfishness was at a low level. But right now, what you think about is yourself, and it doesn't matter whether every other person perishes. I think that these are the real issues. If they can be dealt with, if this value system, our value systems can be reinstated, can be restored, then you can be sure that
Where did you go to high school?
St. Paul's Anglican Grammar School.
In Igara?
In Igara.
Okay.
Yeah.
I went to government secondary school, Kenya, that became Abdulaziz Atta Memorial College.
Okay.
And I still know when I went to school, what the environment was like.
Exactly.
In the schools.
Even within the school, yes.
Yeah. And today you go to those schools,
and what you see is deplorable. It's a shame. You see, I think, and I keep emphasizing that I think that even from the homes, our socialization, everything has changed, because we thought that everything that was imported, every exotic thing, is the best or is better than what we have. And I think that that's when we began to leave our own standards and try to absorb other things, and it has really not helped us well.
So the home upbringing, socialization,
very crucial, Father. A whole lot of parents have abandoned their responsibility, believing that the schools will take care, which is so very wrong. And that's why today you find out the parents, father, mother, are out there chasing money, and then they do not know what's happening at home. They have become strangers to their own children, including mothers. In those days, you had a situation where at least the mother was with the children for a greater part of the time. But today, because of the economic challenges, you find out that both men and women are working, and they don't even care. Children are kept in the care of third parties. Some of them, those third parties themselves, need to be trained, have not gotten requisite training. They are like babies training babies, children training children. And so that's part of the real problem. If we tackle that, if there can be a system by which maybe we ensure that a number of years of a child, she is, compulsorily under the tutelage, under the training of their mothers. I don't know how that's going to happen, but I think that
in Germany, for example, and in France, they are beginning to recognize the importance of mothers being with their children.
Very important, Father.
That is why they have some lengthy maternity leave in place. Apart from the lengthy maternity leave, they also have, I live briefly in Germany, and I'm aware that when a young man and a young man want to marry, they often decide if they want to have children.
Good.
And if they want to have children, then they cannot both be working.
It's absurd. It's not working. We need to look at it. You see, again, that's why I talk about values. Our priorities have really shifted. We no longer care about our humanity. We no longer care about things like virtue. We no longer care about things like empathy. We no longer care about things like honesty. We no longer care about, Those things. So for us, I mean, if you ask the average Nigerian, no matter how young, they think that money is the only way by which you can measure success. And so it doesn't matter how you get the money. You know, there are a few cliches that are very popular today. Nobody needs your complaint, your explanation. Just get the result. Those kind of things. Just get the result.
Meaning that the end
justifies the means,
which is
totally wrong.
Yes.
Which is what has put us in this in the spot that we're in. I mean, you hear things like. What causes problems in relationships is because of the sense of entitlement. Now, if I'm in a relationship and there is no entitlement, what's the reason for the relationship? If I cannot expect a certain level,
minimum expectation.
Exactly. If I say because it's your expectations, you are expecting too much from the other party. If we are going to have a working relationship, if we're going to have a marriage relationship or a love relationship, and there are no defined parts, of what use is the relationship, Father?
And that is about problem with institutions.
Exactly.
It's as if today's generation is rejecting all forms of institutions
and
conventions.
And conventions. We want to go, I mean, we're not animals, but we want to live like animals. Everybody wants to be able to go his own way and without questioning.
Certain level of autonomy.
Not certain level, total autonomy for every individual. It cannot work because wherever you have too much freedom, you will eventually get into crisis. Freedoms have to be also...
society is based on individuals jettisoning some of their
own
rights.
Convenience in order for every other person to have some convenience.
So
if you're not going to make some sacrifice,
yes,
then we're going to be in a circle where we're going to be feeding on each other.
It's jungle.
That's a jungle system. So a lion, we're just going to be predators. So the bigger you are, how do they say it now? It will be a survival of the fittest. And that's where we are. Today, people who are stealing our common patrimony are so very arrogant. They feel that you are a fool. You that is not in that league. When ordinarily the honest person should have a better place than the thief. But in Nigeria today, we have a situation where the rogue is the one who is in charge. And who feels proud about what he's doing. And in fact, they look down on you and say, oh, you are not smart. It's very unfortunate.
There is something that I say often, and that is to say, in the latrine, those who know what latrines used to be, it is only the maggot that makes progress.
God. So, in this latrine, only the maggots.
It's the maggots that make progress. That's why they say, empty barrels make the loudest noise.
Exactly.
So, the place is degenerate. The environment is degenerate. And in such degenerate environment, what do you expect?
Father, I think that I'm happy that you have this kind of program on air, and we need to keep talking about these things because we are not hearing enough of them. Even in the places where we ought ordinarily to hear of them. I mean, what you have is that this kind of messages, this kind of talk has been replaced with a pursuit of wealth.
Motivational
talk, how to acquire wealth, 7 steps to success, 7 steps to acquisition of wealth.
If you go to the airport, and see the book,
the kind of books, exactly. Those are the kind of books.
Motivational.
Those are the kind of books. So there's nothing spiritual. There's nothing deep. There's nothing that brings people to a saner state. There's something that draws people to a saner state, to a deeper level of themselves. Everything is on the surface. Everything is superficial. Everything is material. And once you are not within that circle, then you are a misfit.
But do people recognize, a lot of people in our generation, do they recognize that this kind of situation cannot sustain for long? You said just now that we are operating as if we are in a jungle.
Exactly.
Survival of the fittest. But such jungles don't survive for long.
I'm afraid. I don't think that Nigerians are discerning enough. Else, we should know that the handwriting on the wall right now is one that is very green. We should know even by now. I mean, look at the fact that as of now, we are already borrowing almost beyond what we ought to
I
borrow.
mean,
in a land that is supposed to be well endowed.
We are told that we are spending over 90% of our resources
to service debt. Please note, Father, servicing debt does not mean payment. Yes. It does not mean that the debt is being paid. It means that the interests are being cleared. So the stock, the loan proper is still untouched. Yes. And you are spending 90% or over 90% on that. Now, if anybody can sit back and think, we should be in a position right now where we should be in sackcloth. Because what it means is that in the next 2-3 years,
the system collapses.
It will just die. In fact, you see, I'm sorry, but I'm not so excited about whoever takes power in 2023, because there's no magic that there's no magic wand you're going to bring. And
I do not envy anybody.
Anybody who's going to take power in 2023 will really have some work to do. And so that's the more reason also why Nigerians have to also be a lot more discerning, a lot more determined, a lot more choosy about who comes to power in 2023.
You said that a lot of places where this kind of reflection should be happening, it is not happening.
It's not happening.
So in some of our churches, it
That's
is not
what I'm
happening.
saying. Yes, it's not happening. Within the home, it's not happening.
In some schools, it is not happening.
Schools, it's not happening. I mean, the examples that we see all over the place does not support what we're talking about.
So can we then say this is failure of the older generation?
To a large extent, yes, Father.
Because you see, young people who are in their 20s or who are in their teens, they don't know what a good society is supposed to be like.
Exactly. Because the examples they've always grown up with are this kind of. Let me give this example. In the last edition of our magazine, I wrote 2 different pieces. I was in one, my regular column, I was talking about who is likely to come up as presidential flag bearers. But in the other one, I did an urgent call on mothers. Now, have you noticed that a lot of the people that are caught as offenders of the law, a lot of the criminals that we find have a closeness, and I say this very guardedly, I say this with utmost respect for our mothers and our women, but a lot of times you find out that these children, their mothers are aware of what they do. Their mothers know that this boy is scamming people.
It's a Yahoo
It's
boy.
a Yahoo boy. Their mothers know a lot of times, and this is not gender war. A lot of times the fathers don't know. There's a particular case in 2021 or 2020. A Yahoo boy kept whether 90 or 95 million naira with a mother. With a mother in Benin.
A boy who is not in a contractor.
You cannot see what exactly he's doing. He lives big. He rides SUVs. And then he keeps 95 million. Of course, the mother knows that this is funny. Money. But she kept it until the case came up, and then both of them, went in for it. There are other cases like that. It's in that magazine. Now, what am I saying by this? A lot of times, we already have problems at home when one parent says, hey, where did you get this phone from? We have situations today, for example, Father, that parents get a phone worth 50,000 for their daughter. The daughter comes back after a semester, brandishing a phone worth 200,000. And rather than face queries, rather than asking, how did you come about this? You find out that especially, I'm sorry about this, but that's the truth. We can do a research about it. The mothers wow, what a beautiful phone. How much did you get this? It says 200. So, wow, you try, this. Snap me small, make I see. This picture go fine. That's a mother.
That's embarrassing.
That's a mother. You'll find out that there are cases a lot of times where the man of the house is saying, I'm not comfortable with this. How did you get this? What are you doing to get this? You didn't tell me that you're doing a job. I have children right now during this in this place who are working. They just couldn't stay at home. They felt that they needed to do something for themselves. They went back to Benin. They're schooling in Uniben, and they went back there and they have jobs.
Find some job to do.
Exactly. Yes. Even though I'm not too comfortable with it, today we still had a talk about it, and tears were welled up in my eyes because I wouldn't really have loved that. But you see, the brother came to the defense of the sister. I said, "Daddy, this girl is not sitting down in a boy's place, messing herself up. She has chosen to apply her time profitably
to do some work and earn a living.
Daddy, we have had enough home training for us to be able to stand wherever we go." These were his words. They are on my phone. So those are the things. How many homes have that? How many homes care whether whatever you go and do and get the money? So it starts from there.
So the home
is primary.
Ruptured.
Is terribly ruptured in many cases. Okay, we have fathers, a lot of cases, who don't even come home on time or who don't come home at all.
Who are absent.
They don't even know what's happening. They don't even care what's happening. They believe that once they put money down, there's money, rent is taken care of, food has been provided, you want clothes are provided, I pay your school fees, where do you want to go for Christmas, for your holidays, it's taken care of. Then what else? But they do not know that parenting goes far beyond that. Parenting means that you need to invest your experiences, you need to invest your time, you need to invest you are older, you have passed through certain things, you should be able to share and say, look, this is the narrow path, it's better for you, but this is the wide path.
Talking about where we find ourselves now,
yes.
Because you see, you have emphasized what is supposed to have been the role of the family.
Exactly.
What about schools? How have we degenerated at that level, on the level of in that angle of schools?
Father, let me tell you, by my own understanding, what happens in the school and at home also transcends the homes into the schools, because the teachers are parents themselves, mm-hmm. and if they have failed in their own homes, they are not going to succeed in school. And then if these children have come from failed homes, it's going to be a lot of work to put them right. That's one. Now, let's look at this perspective. Do you realize that most students today in secondary school, there's hardly anyone that really fails. The one that fails is the one that has no money. What do I mean by that? Ever since the
miracle centers.
Exactly. Almost every school is that way today. Almost every school is that way today. You find a child, in fact, there was a professor recently who was complaining bitterly about it, that some students come in for engineering courses and basic maths, they have challenges with it. Why? Because they have been supported even in the hall by teachers. By teachers themselves, supporting children and saying the answer to number 1 is A, number 2, B, number 3, C. Now, I think that we should get to the point where a teacher should be ashamed to do that.
No, I mean, a teacher who does that has lost his or her everything that qualifies you to be a teacher.
But you see, we don't reason that way. Those are the heroes for the children. You can only have what you're saying if we still have our...
Those are the heroes for the children today.
Today, that's what I'm saying.
But if that child is looking for a responsible man or woman in future to be an advisor, to be a counselor, do you think he will go to that teacher?
No, of course.
He will say he's dishonest and a dishonest man or dishonest woman.
That's correct. So we need to have this kind of talk consistently, because we need to raise a generation. We need to raise a remnant. The Bible calls a remnant. We need to prop up a remnant to ensure that things are done right. We're in a mess. We can't lament it enough. But beyond lamenting, we must take the few steps that we can take individually and as groups to see what we can do to remedy it.
Do you think that the extent we have gotten in terms of degeneration, do you think that there's still much that we can do to turn things around?
I think that when a people are decided, and with God, that all things are possible.
Of course, with God, all things are possible.
With God, all things are possible. And when people are ready,
we
need to have the right kind of
Do we have sufficient
leadership.
Enough people who still know what humanity is supposed to be, who still know what society is supposed to be, who still have an idea of what family life is supposed to be. You see, because I look at schools now and I say, from elementary schools to high schools to universities, and I say, the crop of people who are teaching, how many of them really have the profile
To teach.
what a teacher is supposed to be? Because you see, that's where to begin the discussion. To turn things around, you need a critical mass of people who have an idea of where we are going, where we are supposed to be going.
Father, I think that we have quite a number of persons who also believe in this that we're talking about, but they may not be in positions of authority. They may be apolitical. These are some of the problems. Such persons they feel too clean to come and be in the mud. You see, but you see, if you feel that clean, you will be led by the muddy, the mud stains.
No. Is there any way, they're talking about leadership, because leadership is not only about political leadership.
Yes, I know.
Is there any way that these people can be helped to become a critical mass, some kind of network arrangement that brings these people together so that they can influence the way society runs? Because a lot of these people cannot go into politics. I mean, see what happened during the primaries that we had.
Imagine that. There are persons who will not touch that.
The kind of people you are talking about now don't have 3, 4, 10, 20 million, 1 billion.
No, they don't.
To go and
so how will they get into the political system?
I'm trying to say, isn't there some other way of influencing society, of influencing young people, than simply getting into political power?
Yeah, but that's where the religious homes should have come in. That's where the schools should have.
Leaders.
So, I mean, that's where schools should have come in. You look at, you were talking about teaching just now. I think a lot of people don't understand that teaching is more than even academic knowledge.
Of course, it's much more.
There's a whole lot that is of mentorship, of mentoring. I remember my father was a teacher. My mother was a teacher. Now, I know how the life of the pupil, what it meant to them. I know how they'll go out of their way to go look for a child on their individual, not school. They are not sent by the school. They'll go look for a child that didn't come to school. They'll be interested in why.
So teaching for them was a vocation.
Exactly. Like a calling, like it's beyond. How much were they paid? I look around these days and I see teachers who live well, and I feel bad that my parents lived that poorly. That we had to endure a whole lot because they were teachers. They were paid a pittance. Yes, but today you find teachers in some private schools who earn very well. And that's what it ought to be. You might criticize every other thing. I think I saw something in the dailies today. Was it in the dailies or on social media? Where this particular government, they have so many weaknesses, but at least this is a plus, that they have arranged a scholarship for those undergraduates who are studying education. In both universities and colleges of education. Of course, if you don't do that, that's a great one.
No, if you don't do that, there will be nobody going for education.
For education, that's the thing. And you know what? A lot of times, the people who go to read education are people who have less.
Who have no other opportunities.
Exactly, less qualifications, or who have tried to get into university for so long and then they can't get in, and so on.
When I was in school,
it shouldn't be so.
When I was in school, those who went in to teach were people who got first class.
Exactly.
Who were encouraged by the universities to remain
in the system. So that the top-notch standard can be maintained.
But then, if we have run down education to the extent that it is those who have no other choice that go into education, then we have destroyed education.
That's the point. There's this thing that there's a university in South Africa where they said there's this thing, someone wrote at the door of one of the halls.
That if you want to destroy education.
Exactly. Yes. You want to destroy a nation.
Yes, if you want to destroy a nation, just destroy the education. We will end this segment on this note. I've been speaking with Dayo Omoogun, who is a publisher of Balance magazine, and we've been speaking about Nigeria, how did we get here? Dayo, we will need to have a second segment to discuss the way forward. I mean, we have done some analysis of the current situation, which is terribly deplorable.
Exactly.
We will need to meet again to discuss how do we move forward. It's been wonderful having you in this studio.
Thank you very much, Father.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Anytime I'm ready.
Thank you.
I'm available for you.
Yeah.